turn it over to you and your beautiful kitchen to show off what we're going to do with this butter experiments. I see that you have the watermelon next to the bread. Is that on purpose?
You know, I have to cut up the watermelon, but since that has nothing to do with shaking up butter, maybe we'll do that tomorrow. You know, during our 10-minute break tomorrow, maybe we can cut up my watermelon that I've had down there for far too long. But today, guys, we're going to shake up butter. So my first question to you is, where does butter come from? If you can put it in the chat, that would be super helpful. Where does butter come from? Cows. Yes. So there is a lot of stuff that happens between the cow and then the butter that we buy in the store. So there are lots of different varieties of butter that you can buy in the store. It can come like this. It can come in a tub. It can come in just a stick. There are so many different ways that butter can come. We're actually going to make it from heavy cream. So like Mr. Sheik said, you can use whole milk if you don't have heavy cream. If you didn't have a chance to run out to the store to buy some heavy cream, you can just follow along and then you can try it over the weekend. So we need heavy cream. I already had my heavy cream sitting out. The instructions call for you to leave your heavy cream out for 5 hours before we start this. If you didn't, no problem. It's not a big deal. It's just going to take you probably a little bit longer once we start shaking the butter for the whole milk and the heavy whipping cream to turn into the butter. It might just take a little bit more shaking, which is why we suggested that you have a helper if possible, because sometimes your arms are going to get a little tired from shaking. You're going to get a workout when you're shaking up that butter. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So we have our whipping cream, our heavy whipping cream. I poured it into my measuring cup. I poured 1 cup in there. If you don't have a cup and you have less, that's fine. You can actually use any quantity you want. Just make sure whatever jar or container that you have with the lid that you're going to shake it in is going to fit the amount of liquid that you have, okay? So the other things we're going to need is we're going to need a bowl. And then we're going to need some cold water. I'm going to keep my cold water far away from my computer screen because I don't want to have an uh-oh and then you guys can't see me. So I'm going to put my water away for a minute until we get to that part. It also asks you to get some bags. This is just for storage after we shake up the butter and it's formed, just so you can put it in your refrigerator so it doesn't go bad. Okay, so the first thing that we always want to do when we're in the kitchen is wash our hands with soap and water, right? So I'm going to quickly come over here. I'm just going to wash my hands. I already washed my hands, but generally you want to wash your hands for a whole minute. You want to sing the ABCs. You want to sing the happy birthday song. So we're going to wash our hands. We're going to dry them. And now we are ready to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have our heavy whipping cream. I have it in my measuring cup. So if you guys want to pour your whipping cream into the measuring cup, if it isn't already, we have this, we have it ready to go. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it into my container. Now, remember, you want your container to have a lid so when you shake it, it doesn't get all over the place. And I don't think your parents would like if you got heavy whipping cream all over your computer or your iPad. So we're going to pour it in. Are you ready? So mine is a little bit thicker because it's been setting out. You see how it's a little bit thick going in there? So I'm just going to get out as much as I can. If you have a spoon and you want to just try to get the rest of it out, that's fine too, but it's no big deal if there's anything left in there. So we're going to get this all out. I'm going to set this aside so it doesn't get broken. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the lid on our jar or our container. Whatever you have, you just want to make sure it's secure. Okay, mine's secure. So I'm using plastic. How I learned about shaking up butter was I took my daughter to a cooking class at a farm and they introduced us to this. Now, when we were there, we were using glass jars. I'm using plastic because I don't have any glass jars and also because I'm clumsy and I didn't want to break it. Whatever you guys have, as long as it has a lid on it, you should be good to go. So does everybody that's participating have their container ready to go with their heavy whipping cream and their lid on top? Okay, so we're gonna start shaking. Are you guys ready? Your lid's on, right? It's tight. If you flip it over, we're not having any leakage, right? If it's on its side, nothing's coming out. Okay, I'm gonna count to 3. Like Matthew said, on 3, we're gonna start shaking. Now, here's the thing. The instructions say it could take anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. Now, it could take 20 minutes only if your whipping cream or your whole milk hasn't been sitting out for 5 hours. So that's why they recommend, hey, take it out 5 hours before you want to make your butter, let it sit on the counter. I put a dish over top of mine so no bugs or anything could get inside. And now we're ready to go. If yours is cold and you get tired of shaking it, maybe just keep it out for an hour or 2 and come back and start shaking it later, okay? So when I was at the farm shaking it, I'm gonna start shaking. Ready? 1, 2, 3, shake! Okay, so this is gonna take a while. So when I was at the farm, we had all the kids shaking up their butter. It's very liquidy. You're getting your workout in. It's kind of getting a little bit more difficult. I can feel it getting a little heavier. Can anybody else feel it getting a little thick in there, like it's clumping together? So
looks like there's a lot of people shaking, Miss Heather.
Oh, good job, guys. I can't really scroll through because I'm shaking with both of my hands. I'm using both hands so I don't accidentally lose control and hit my cabinets. I'd be very upset if I got milk all over my cabinets.
Andrew's shaking, Miguel and Alejandro. Oh, Akira's holding a cat. Oh, Tristan and Grayson are shaking. Gideon, Charlie. Looks like there's 2 people shaking at Charlie's house. Awesome.
Don't get tired yet, guys. Don't get
Keep
tired.
going.
Uh-oh, guys. Mine is getting, like, I don't think I have a lot of liquid in there. Oh, I hear some. Do you guys hear anything left in yours? Like I said, it's going to take everybody. Somebody's is solid already? Emily, you must have muscles of steel. Mine's not even solid yet. It could take, like I said, anywhere from a few minutes to 20 minutes, depending on how long it had been sitting out. So we're just going to keep shaking. Don't get discouraged if you have somebody around that wants to take a turn shaking. When I was at the baking class with my daughter, we would hand it back and forth to shake because your arms get tired, right? Who knew shaking butter was going to also be a workout? So
Gideon is really getting into it. Charlie at his house, they are doing a lot of shaking. Tristan and Grayson are still going. Miguel and Alejandro. Butter, butter, butter.
Let me ask, has anybody in the chat made butter before? Because it feels like I have a bunch of professional butter makers on my hands here. Delilah, you've made butter before? Oh, you could have taught this session? Wow.
Tristan and Grayson said yes, lots.
I was 37 before I learned how to make butter. You guys are way cool. Okay, so I'm going to open mine. Mine is still liquidy, but I just want to show you what it looks like, okay? So I wouldn't recommend taking off your lid, but I just want to show you guys what it looks like as we're shaking. Okay, so remember it was all liquid. Can you see? Whoop! Don't tell Mr. Nate I did that. Can you see? I'm going to actually get my spoon and pick it out so I'm not dumping stuff all over. But do you see how it's not liquid, really? I mean, it has some liquid in it because I have to keep going. But it is forming into butter. So let me clean up my little mess that I made. I'm going to put my lid back on, make sure it's very secure so I don't have any more messes to clean. And I'm going to keep shaking. Has anybody, if you guys want to peek in, if you can't see, I can see through mine that there's still some liquid in there. If you guys can see there's still liquid, just keep shaking. If not, does anybody have theirs all in like one piece of butter? Like one hunk of butter? Anybody there yet? Yes, you're gonna be able to use this butter on toast, on your corn on the cob, whatever you want to use it on. We're going to put it in your refrigerator at the end, and that's going to help it from going bad. There are a couple more steps that we're going to do after we're done shaking. So we're just going to give it a few more shakes, and then we can take out whatever clumps that we have, and then we can keep the rest. So something I was told when I was on the farm is that whatever liquid we have left in here is actually buttermilk. Has anybody ever made buttermilk biscuits or buttermilk pancakes? There are so many things that you can do with buttermilk. So whatever liquid that you have left over, you can put into a container, and you can save the buttermilk in your refrigerator and add it to, you know, any breads you're making or biscuits and things like that. And it just makes it a little bit better.
Jovi said buttermilk chicken. That sounds good.
Oh, I'm coming to your house. There are so many different things that you could do with buttermilk. I don't even know all of them. All right, guys. So, what is your favorite thing to put butter on? My favorite thing to put butter on is I love bagels with butter. I don't like cream cheese. I'm a little silly. I like butter on my bagels. What do you guys put butter on? Toast.
Dylan said pasta. Abby said corn.
Pasta, of course.
Abby said oatmeal also. Kimberly said toast.
Corn, right. Okay, vegetables, so many different things. Okay, guys. So we could be here for a long time. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to take out some of our butter, okay? How's everybody doing? Anybody have solid butter? Anybody?
Amber, you have been shaking a ton. Do you have any butter over there yet? Yeah?
You have butter?
Awesome.
Okay.
Miguel and Alejandro,
right.
Look at that.
Okay, guys. So how long do we think it's going to take if we didn't let it sit out? If we didn't let the cream sit out for 5 hours? So we've been shaking, I'm going to say less than 5 minutes. And mine's getting pretty good. I'm going to take mine out. I'm going to put it in here just so you guys can see. And then we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, but I just want to take out some of the butter that I have. That's my butter. Okay. And then, like I said, all this cream that's in here, we can save, and that can be our buttermilk for whatever you want to use it for. I'm sure your parents are going to be super excited you have buttermilk, because now you need to figure out what you want to do with it, right? Got to get into the kitchen on these days. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do, we've shaken it. Let's just say it's been 5 to 20 minutes just for the sake of time. I love butter too. It's my favorite. So we have our butter. It's in a big lump. We have separated it from the creamy buttermilk. The next thing that we want to do is grab our bowl. Grab our cold water. Don't get it too close to your computer. You don't want to be Miss Heather. And the next thing we're going to do, since we already poured the liquid out, we're going to move the clump of butter. We're going to put it in our bowl, and we're going to pour some water on it. Just a little bit of water, okay? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to knead the butter to remove any liquid. Now, mine is still a little bit wet, but you're just going to want to get it in your hands. You're going to get a little dirty and a little yucky, a little greasy, but that's okay. And what you want to do is you're just going to want to push it up against the side. Try to get out any of that excess liquid, because the excess liquid in your butter is what's going to make your butter go bad quicker. So it gets really rancid and yucky if there's extra water in it. So you just want to kind of get it out. Make sure there's no water in there. Sometimes this process can take a couple times, the instructions say. But as you can see, mine is not leaking any water anymore. What about you guys? Anybody have butter that looks, It's really weird to be holding butter in my hand like this, right? This is not usually how you handle butter. Usually it's in a container. But as you can see, my butter is not leaking anything anymore. So now I'll wipe off my hand so I can open this bag. Siri thinks I'm asking her what to do next. I'm not Siri. Okay, so I'm going to open my bag. I'm going to put my butter into my bag. I'm going to seal my bag. You don't want any extra air to get in there. And then you can put it in the refrigerator and it's going to harden. Okay, and then eventually after a few hours, it's going to be hard. And then you can use it on whatever you would like. You can use it in the state it is in now. It's just going to be a little bit softer, like Mr. Sheik had said earlier, which is fine. So I like my butter a little softer to put on my toast so it doesn't rip the toast apart. But that is how you make butter. Now, if you
sorry, Miss Heather, can I interrupt you? I apologize.
Yeah.
I see some bowls and I see some people kneading their butter still.
Okay.
So you shook it up.
Yes.
You separated the butter from the cream.
Yep.
You dumped the butter into the bowl and added a little bit of really cold water.
Yes, and that is going to help draw out any of the liquid. You can, knead it on the side if you want, just to get out any of that excess liquid. You don't want your butter to be leaking water. You want your butter to just kind of be solid because you don't want any of the liquid water coming out, because then it gets yucky really quickly and then you won't be able to use it. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to double check how long I kept mine in the refrigerator, but my butter was probably good for at least 3 weeks in the refrigerator when I made it. So make sure you keep it in the refrigerator. But the one thing I want to tell you is that I still have a lot of liquid in here. So I can keep shaking. You can do this as many times as you want until all of your liquid is either turned into butter or you've poured it out and then you started to use it as buttermilk. So really, we're not done making butter. We could keep going. We can keep shaking. Or if you have an idea of what you want to do with the buttermilk, then you can just save the liquid. But butter's pretty easy to make outside of, using your muscles and vigorously shaking for up to 20 minutes, but it's actually not super hard to make. What do you guys think? Do you think you'll make butter at home, or are you just gonna go to the store and buy it? What's easier, you think?
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you make different kinds of butter? So you see like butter, like herb butter or,
honey
other
butter,
things like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Would you be able to do, how would you do that?
So what you would do is once your butter is formed like this, you can just add in whatever you want. So say you want some garlic butter, you could add in some garlic. How many people have ever been to Texas Roadhouse where they have that really good cinnamon butter? You could add some cinnamon and sugar to your butter. There are so many different things that you can do with butter. And it also really depends. Some people like their butter a little salty, so they add some salt. This doesn't have any salt. Make sure you taste it before you add anything to it. You always want to taste test, because it might be perfect as it is, and then you add something like salt and you're like, oh no, now it's not as good, and you have to throw it out. So take a little taste test before you add anything and see if you like it as is. But like Mr. Sheik said, you can turn this butter into lots of different things. I'm sure your parents have ideas of how you can make this butter better. But I think I'm going to use this on my corn on the cob later, maybe on some popcorn. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with my butter. What are you guys going to do with yours?
I know
Landon?
my favorite kind of butter is honey butter.
Oh, yes.
So good.
On some buttermilk biscuits?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Landon
so,
asks if you can make butter from buttermilk.
I'm not sure. I mean, if you keep shaking the buttermilk, right, it's going to turn into butter. So you keep shaking, it turns into butter.
Well, there's another question too that I have, because you mentioned, and I'll ask everybody in chat because they kind of answered this question. What does butter come from? What did everybody say butter comes from?
Pigs. Am I right?
So see, everybody says in cows. Can butter come from something else? Have you ever seen milk from something else? Goats,
There's your answer.
goats. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else beyond goats? No, I haven't seen pig butter. That's weird. Sheep, I
No.
have seen.
Yes.
Soy milk, yes. You see almond butter and soy butter, yeah.
We should try different.
Water buffalo. I have heard of that too, Delilah.
Okay. So there are so many different kinds of butter. I might just make a piece of toast and use my butter. I don't know. And now I'm hungry. I've made everybody super hungry. One other thing that you can do is if you don't want it in your bowl, you can always get some wax paper and you can try to knead it out a little bit on your wax paper. If the bowl isn't working, if there's just too much liquid in there, you can always throw it on some wax paper. Wax paper is always your friend when you're baking and cooking. But yeah, guys, what did you think about making butter? Who knew that you could make butter in your own kitchen? You didn't need anything but just some whipping cream, some cold water in a bowl, and your hands.
I'm seeing some thumbs up as I scroll through the videos. People really seem to enjoy this. They are still shaking at Tristan and Grayson's, at Charlie's, at Miguel and Alejandro's.
You guys are doing great. Look at you go. I haven't even seen that many people grab a helper, which means you guys are super strong. So not only did we make butter, we got a workout in, and we had a lot of fun with Mr. Cleary today, huh? I saw you guys mixing all of your different liquid and then chucking stuff in. What a great day at summer camp, guys. Thank you for joining me making butter.
Miss Heather, Sophia asked what the ingredients were again.
Sure, no problem. So the ingredients that I printed out, and there are a couple different variations if you go online, but this was just the simplest. So the first thing is you need some heavy whipping cream. You're going to need a measuring cup to make sure that you had, about a cup fit in here pretty nicely. And then you're going to want something to put your butter in when you're finished. You're probably going to want something additional just to pour any buttermilk that you might have left, so you can use it for, biscuits or whatever else that you're going to be using with the buttermilk. You're going to need some cold water. And then lastly, a plastic bag if you want to put your butter in a plastic bag as opposed to like a container. But you don't need a ton of stuff. The only thing you probably don't have at home is the heavy whipping cream. Now, let me ask you guys, did anybody use whole milk like Mr. Sheik had said? Because I'm just curious how that turned out, because I haven't used whole milk. I've only used the whipping cream. So I'm curious, did it go quicker? Was it slower? Do you have firmer butter? I'm going to have to test that out. I still see Tristan and Grayson shaking that butter. You guys are good butter makers.
So I'll tell you guys about a few more things that are going to be happening this week, because this isn't the only food thing we're going to be doing. Mr. James, I believe you're going to be doing something where we're making another food item. Is that correct?
Yes, a food item and an oven. That will be tomorrow. I have planned for rocks and crystals. So we could be making some rock candy tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we will be making a frozen treat. Could be ice cream, or if you prefer, water ice.
Oh, and we might have someone that's going to be made butter. We're going to be making rock salt. We're going to be, or rock salt, rock candy. Don't eat rock salt. That's
don't eat that.
We might be making water ice, and we might even be making some cheese too. So all this stuff that we could make just by using science to shake things up and get all the molecules working together. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Also, as a reminder, we will be at the Carnegie Museum tomorrow, and we'll be at the Franklin Institute on Friday. The Carnegie Museum tomorrow, we're going to be seeing a lot of things that have to do with dinosaurs. And on Friday, we're actually going to see stuff that has to do with temperature. And if you've ever heard of this, it's called liquid nitrogen. It's very dangerous, but we're going to see a big demonstration about it, about how something can make things freeze just like that. It's going to be really, really cool. So Guys, if you want to stick around, you can ask other questions and stuff. If you want to leave now, you are dismissed for today. But feel free to ask any other questions. Obviously, we are here to make sure that you guys have all the ingredients you need. Mr. James, if you don't mind, could you share that sheet of the ingredients for tomorrow? Because I saw someone ask that question too.
Yeah, I was about to do that. Let me bring that back
And
up.
we'll send it an email too. But this was the case if you want to check it out now. Mr. James is going to share the ingredients we need for tomorrow for our 10 to 11 activity. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be at the Carnegie Museum tomorrow at 11 a.m. too. So that should be a ton of fun. And if you made butter today and you want us to show everybody on social media what you made, feel free to take a picture and send it to us too. That will be a lot of fun. And don't forget, we have the summer passport stuff that where you just fill out what you've learned on each of these sessions. And if you send it to us, then we'll be able to send you a prize. There was a question. Does it have to be white sugar? Can it be brown sugar or any other type of sugar?
White sugar is going to work a lot better than brown sugar because brown sugar has other stuff mixed in it, whereas white sugar is more just pure sugar.
We have gotten a couple passports, so keep sending them in. We're going to start sending out prizes.
I also want to clarify that for the water, because you need to make rock candy, the way you do that is you mix in a lot of sugar with water. And the way you mix in a lot of sugar into water versus just a little bit is that you have hot water. And for safety, it doesn't necessarily have to be like boiling hot water, but it should be fairly hot. So I am going to just run hot water from my faucet, or maybe just put some water in the microwave for a few seconds. And then that should be high enough to mix in enough sugar, because you're going to need like a cup of sugar to get this to work.
All right, any other question, guys? Ladies and gents, dudes and dudettes. All right, everyone, I hope to see you all tomorrow. Like I said, we'll be sending an email like we do every day to let you know everything that's going on. Here is the ingredients for tomorrow. And I did see a couple of you did fill out the passports. Andrew, I believe you did get yours. There's a few other, we got yours. We'll be sending you your first prize, and then you can fill out another 6 for a second prize as well. And we are working on a fun little prize for everybody too. So we'll see if that comes up. We'll let you know a little later on in July. And you can use almond milk for some activities. Making butter, I wouldn't use almond milk because it's not going to react as well. You want to use something with a lot of fat. So whole milk is even a little rough, but that's why whipping cream works really well.
Correct.
Yeah, almond milk and soy milk are not, how to put this, actually milk. They do not contain the same fats and parts that come from animals because they come from plants.
Right.
They may work as a milk substitute, but they don't have the same components that would make butter.
All right, guys, you can continue putting messages in chat if you have questions, but if not, thank you, everybody. Have a good day, and I hope to see you tomorrow.
See you soon, campers.